Kind of feels like Donald Trump is speaking from a place of utmost confidence, don't you think? This dumbass is literally fucking sitting and watching CBS and CNN on television, and instead of going to his advisors and being like, is this real? He's just tweeting shit out, live reacting to the TV while simultaneously begging. Getting back to American imperial collapse. Trump advisor privately urging him to seek an exit ramp from the Iran war, citing concerns about spiking oil prices and potential political backlash. Things are not going good, folks. Revolutionary Guard spokesman to Al Jazeera says no American ship will dare approach the Sea of Oman, the Gulf waters, or the Strait of Hormuz. Things are. I thought this was victory was imminent, but it turns out Yankee Empire is not. It doesn't have the same fucking motion that it once did.
Report shows I'm willing to live with that report.
But experts say the U.S. is the only military in the war that uses Tomahawk missiles, and say it is likely an American Tomahawk missile hit the area near the school. The president yesterday also very conscious of the economic impact of the war, with oil prices climbing after restrictions in the key Strait of Hormuz, though the markets rallied last night.
We're also focused on keeping energy and oil flowing to the world.
Overnight, responding to the president's comments, Iran threatening to stop the flow of oil if attacks continue. The president later posting that if Iran's leaders did so, quote, death, fire, and fury will rain upon them. And amid reports that Russia is providing intelligence to help Iran target U.S. forces in the region, President Trump said Monday that he had a good call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, urging Putin to help end the war in Ukraine. And in the fighting in the Middle East, the president said Putin wants to be, in his words, quote, very constructive. Craig.
Peter Alexander from the White House. Peter, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today.
Let's take a closer look at the comments issued by Iran's Revolutionary Guard to President Trump's comments on the war ending soon. The statement says our hands are open to expanding the war. Security will be for all and insecurity for all. We are the ones who will determine the end of the war. The statement goes on to say the regional equations and the future situation of the region. And
the Venezuela comp is a common one, but the Yemen one is also a noteworthy lesson in Trumpian policy. Yeah, the Israeli goal of each round has not necessarily been to finish off Iran, but to keep the option open for the next round. Conversely, the Iranian goal is not just to survive, but to ensure that there won't be a next round. There's a lot of attention to Trump's lessons from the Venezuelan campaign, which is that some enemies crumble at the first punch, and less to his lesson on the Yemeni campaign, which is that you can just taco when it starts to drag on. The problem here, however, is that Trump's capabilities of pulling out in Yemen is not as dependent on like Israeli goals, because Yemen can reach Israel, but it's not as significant of a threat as Iran, right? Iran is the main prize, because if Iran falls, then Yemen is easier to deal with. That's the reason why he can't pull out of Iran, not because he doesn't want to pull out. If it was up to him, I think he would look for. I think he could look for an alternative off ramp here and just try to find like a modest W for himself, to just like pat himself on the back, to be like, oh, well, we severely diminished their capabilities, blah, 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 all this shit. And maybe even like pull out of the Gulf, right? And turn around and say that they pulled out of the Gulf because they wanted to, because like the Gulf partners are unreliable, something along those lines, right? Like there's always propaganda that the administration can deploy when they're leaning into the demands being made by Iran, because Iran's goals here are not like the complete destruction of Israel, right? Like that's not going to happen. Let's be real. America has a fuck ton of they still have room to grow in the escalation ladder. They can still hit the nuclear option, for example. That's always, especially for Israel, that's most likely what the outcome would be before they allowed Iran to like destroy Tel Aviv, right? So Iran is aware of that as well. The reason why I'm bringing up Yemen versus Iran here, however, is that America can pull out of Yemen because Yemen is not as severe of a threat to Israel, but Iran is a severe threat to Israel's existence, right? And therefore, it's Israel that controls this this bout. Israel is the one that's, calling the shots. Israel is the one that's saying, we're going to escalate, we're going to shoot the oil refineries, we're going to blow up desalination plants, or we're going to tell America to blow up desalination plants, and they'll blow up the desalination plants, right? Like, so the real way to get out of this for Trump is to cut Netanyahu out, is to, for the first time since, the Obama administration, to tell Israel to fucking stand down. American presidents used to do that all the time. It's very common practice, as a matter of fact. Virtually every American president has done so, both privately and also publicly. Trump 1 changed that. Trump 1 absolutely gave Israel the reins of our MENA policy, right? This is something that I bring up all the time. We just stopped saying no to Israel. Completely stopped saying no to Israel. Ronald Reagan had done so. George H.W. Bush had done so. George W. Bush, and even Biden in 2021 had, at a certain point, told Israel, enough, stand down. Now, that was a little bit different, obviously. That was not a post-October 7th situation. That was more so just, telling Israel to cut the mowing the lawn operations short. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because Donald Trump has never told Israel to stand down. Like, you can maybe point to the end of the 12-day war where he told the jets to turn back around, but that was because they didn't have enough munitions to defend Israel, right? And now we're in this long-standing quagmire, an imminent gas crisis, an imminent energy crisis all around the fucking world, right? And there is a lot of political pressure at the domestic level for Donald Trump. Dr. Jihad. Thank you. Arab. Dr. Jihad. Goy. I'm a double major in racism and jihad. Okay? But as I was saying, Trump cannot simply pull out of Iran. He can't find an off-ramp to pull out of Iran for 2 reasons. One, because Iran is currently punishing the American assets in the region, right? Iran is showing the rest of the world and all the foreign adversaries that America is a little bit of a paper tiger. And in order to restore confidence in American imperialism and American military might, Donald Trump can't just chicken out of this, and he can't just pull out of this, right? Because there will be devastating consequences. Where were we? Let's continue.
Now in the hands of the Islamic Republic's armed forces, and that the American forces will not be the ones to end the war. For more on this, let's bring in Tauhid Asadi in Tehran. So Iran remaining very defiant there, Tauhid.
Yes, indeed. According to the statement that we heard, not just from the IRGC, but also when it comes to diplomatic sources and the Iranian Foreign Minister himself in particular, we hear this very strong message that the question of how war is going to be ended, when it's going to be ended, and how long it's going to be taking is something that Tehran says the question remains for it to answer, not for the Americans or the Israelis. And this is actually a strong message of defiance that we heard. Also, the Iranian armed forces are constantly saying that they are ready for a war of attrition, for a long-time confrontation, and there is this readiness militarily speaking in that regard. Also, we see as the reality on the ground that retaliatory strikes by IRGC, one wave after another, is continued, and they are coming every time with the strong messages, that the latest of which they said that they are using +1-ton warheads in the recent and next waves of their retaliatory strikes, which is quite indicative of the very fact that the situation looks far from any point of de-escalation. And also, related to that conversation, we had the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ismail Baghai, in his press conference yesterday to say that, quote unquote, as long as military aggression continues, talking about anything other than crushing answer is not relevant. Iranians right now, we hear from different officials in Tehran, including the Supreme National Security Council, including the foreign minister, a spokesperson for the foreign ministry, the Iranian president. They're all saying that right now, as long as the aggressions, the attacks continue, talking about any negotiation or ceasefire is not going to be on the agenda. So they have sort of conditioned any potential de-escalation to halting of these strikes, which we have been witnessing up until the moment.
All right.
A lot of you literally see some videos of people saying things that you agree with and instantly assume that these guys have always been fucking valid, have always provided sound analysis. Okay? It's very frustrating. Like, exercise a little bit of fucking discipline in your media diet. Like, this is how you fall for the likes of Jimmy Dore. This is how you fall for the likes of fucking Tucker Carlson. This is how you fall for the likes of, like sometimes people have different reasons for why they are saying things that are that come across as agreeable to you. Okay. Sometimes people are fucking, doesn't Al Jazeera provide pretty consistent analysis? Yes, I'm not talking about Al Jazeera. I'm talking about Predictive History, Scott Ritter, Jimmy Dore, and you know, who else? I mean, Tucker Carlson's another one. Candace Owens does this to a certain degree when it comes to Israel-related shit. Even fucking Nick Fuentes. Like, you have to look at the things that these people believe, okay? You can't just like lean into one crank take that they have and assume that they know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay? Like, look, the most reliable people that I will always ride for, that I will, even if I have my disagreements with them, is people like Mersheimer, okay? People like Jeffrey Sachs, people like Norm Finkelstein. These are people who are endlessly reliable when it comes to their analysis, their foreign policy, their interpretation of events. Chris Hedges is another guy, right? Like, these are people who are legit. These are serious people. They're consistent. They have a fully developed worldview. I might not completely agree with everything that they're saying, but like, they're not fucking cranks. Okay, Yanis Varoufakis is another one. Abby Martin is another one. You know, they have a body of work that you can lean into, that you can learn from, that you can actually that you can actually fucking listen to. There are, however, a lot of other people out there in the periphery that are, dancing in the waters of being fucking cranks. Trita Parsi is great for Iran-related things as well. Yes. Anyone from CIP or anyone from Responsible Statecraft is pretty solid, pretty reliable, I would say, as a part of, two of the only fucking think tanks that exist out there that are unironically not as like gung-ho on maximalist American military conquest. Yeah, listen to people that go on Democracy Now!, for example. Those are solid people. Those are reliable people. Okay? Some of you see someone that like kind of agrees with you, and you just lean into it. All right, let's just continue with this.
Let's find out
I'm done talking about this
reaction,
shit.
the Israeli reaction with Nida Ibrahim, who's in Ramallah. in the occupied West Bank. Israel and the U.S. are, of course, engaged in this conflict together. They launched it together against Iran. How are Israeli officials viewing President Trump's comment that the war might be winding down?
Well, we're not expecting them to make these official statements in public, but we expect a lot of lobbying to be carried out behind the scenes. Let's not forget that today we were supposed to see the U.S. Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, as well as Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, come into Israel, but that visit has been cancelled. And many are saying that this cancellation could reflect a tension in the how is the war going to unfold between the U.S. and Israel? Let's not forget that since the beginning of the war, the goals did not fully align between what the U.S. wanted from this war and what Israel wanted. And Israel kept reiterating that they want to keep operating until they eliminate the Iranian, what they call facilities, nuclear facilities, as well as oil facilities, which is also another reason why the U.S. administration has been showing concerns, according to media reports, because they believe that when Israel hits these oil facilities, that could trigger ordinary and usual any Iranian who's affected by this could lobby behind their lobby around and support their government, which is something that it's not necessarily what the U.S. and Israel want. The U.S., while President Trump has mentioned the regime change in the beginning of the war, but it was absent from from the latest messages from Donald Trump. So this seems to be an issue that is at that both parties differ on, and it will be seen how the Israelis are going to try and convince Trump to continue with this war, which is something that Israel has said it wants to do.
Yeah, and the Iranians also continuing with their attacks on Israel, Nida, across several areas of Israel. Tell us about what's been happening and what impact this is having on people's lives.
Well, yesterday we saw 2 Israelis being killed in these Iranian missiles that were sent into Israel. One of them has exploded, according to Israeli authorities, in 6 different locations. We are talking about cluster munitions, warheads that when they are intercepted, they explode and the remnants of them splinter all across the area they're in. And that's why we've seen 2 Israelis killed and many others being taken to hospitals. According to the Israeli Ministry of Health, around 199 people have been hospitalized just in the past 24 hours, and 4 of those have critical or serious injuries. In general, there is this worry that not all missiles are being intercepted, but also drones that are coming from Hezbollah's way into Israel, with certain times the Israelis announcing the failure of the alarm systems to detect these drones or to stop them from infiltrating further
Ritter
into
is majorly anti-Trump. You were very ignorant.
Israel.
No, he was one of the
Israeli
Trump
army,
is.
it says that
He was one of the Trump is going to be the peace candidate guys.
it had been
Was he not?
undermining the powers of Hezbollah, that these anti-tank missiles that they have, as well as these drones, have been more powerful than they had anticipated. But this could be seen also as part of the Israeli attempts to push deeper into southern Lebanon. And we've seen that indeed with the Israeli army's continued threats to all Lebanese living in southern Litani River to evacuate their homes and go to up north.
Thank you, Nida, for that. Nida Ibrahim in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.
So day
11. Trump just on Truth Social just now has said, if Iran has put any mines in the Hormuz Strait and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences to Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. Kind of feels like Donald Trump is speaking from a place of utmost confidence, don't you think? This dumbass is literally fucking sitting and watching CBS and CNN on television, and instead of going to his advisors and being like, is this real? He's just tweeting shit out, live reacting to the TV while simultaneously begging. This is why I said, regardless of my criticisms of Russia, okay, and regardless of what I think Russia should have done instead of like militarily invading Ukraine, the current situation that is determined by Russia's positions, its hardened positions in eastern Ukrainian territory, show that America doesn't have the cards at all as far as dealing with Russia, right? And that played a major, that struck a major blow at the power that Western countries had in terms of like maintaining this global order, being the world police, doing whatever the fuck they want to, whatever the fuck they want to anywhere around the world. Like they could no longer engage in a serious proxy battle against Russia that would destroy the Russian military and cause them to fucking back away. And the same thing is happening here as well. This is blow after blow to Western empire.
11 of the Iranian war. US military dominance continues, with the US claiming they've conducted over 5,000 target strikes since the start of the war. Even Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has claimed that today Iran has fired the fewest missiles across America since the start of the war. And by contrast, it's been the busiest day for America targeting Iran, which has led to President Trump.
Democrats aren't anti-war either. The fuck? When have I said the Democrats are not not pro-war? I understand that. My assessment on this is if you don't have the same level of smoke for both fucking parties, it's not crazy for me to assume that you're kind of on board with one of the two parties. I have the same analysis for both parties. And I will even talk about like what marginal differences exist between two parties. A lot of people will then turn around and say, I'm a fucking sheepdog for the Democrats for that reason. It's very frustrating. Okay? It's very, very frustrating. I want to move the needle in the appropriate direction to the best of my ability with the limited confines that I'm working with. Okay? No, we're not being raided by Asmongold. This is a natural process of having a consistent anti-imperialist position. There will always be some cranks that people lean into without realizing that these guys are like conspiracy theorists or cranks. It's fine.
To not only talk about this.
Is the difference between anti-imperialism and like campism, maybe? Even though if you're a campus, you're like right 99% of the fucking time, so it doesn't even matter for the most part. But that 1% is significant because that if your analysis is, if you're leaning into ridiculous idealism in your analysis, then you're gonna have faulty analysis and you're gonna go down weird rabbit holes. This is the reason why we always oppose Nick Fuentes' interpretation of events, because Nick Fuentes is operating on an anti-Semitic level. His care and consideration for like America's militarism in the region is literally around like Jewish control, the international Jewry, all this shit. Okay, it's ridiculous. It's nonsensical. It's crazy fucking conspiracy theories.
Being very close to winning, but also saying this could be an absolute victory. The challenge, of course, is this realistic based on what we're seeing from a military perspective on the ground? There's no doubt at all that America and Israeli focus at the moment is on the offense, but it's really clear that you also have to look after the defense, not only to make sure you limit casualties on your own side, but also to protect the infrastructure, not only your own air bases, but also that of the Middle East partners. At the start of the war, it was believed that Iran had about 1,500 ballistic missiles, about 100 launchers, and potentially more than 80,000 drones. But it's also believed that since the start of the war, they've used up about 500 of their ballistic missiles and about 2,000 of the drones. 40.
There's no clear-cut number on how many drones exist in the Iranian stockpiles, but the estimates are around 50,000, just so you understand. And also they have the capabilities to consistently manufacture these drones in underground facilities.
% of those being targeted against Israel and 60% against the US. So what is the US doing about this? Well, the US has some very, very capable missiles. These are the main three. Well, most of us will have heard of the Patriot missile system. It's used very widely across Europe, but also in Ukraine. large stocks of the missile. It's about 4 million a time and a pretty significant production rate each year. But I draw your attention to the SM-3, the Aegis SM-3, 28 million pounds a time and very, very low production rate. If you look overall, the total number of missiles here is about 2,000 missiles. Worth remembering that with Patriot, you normally fire 2 missiles because they don't have 100% probability of kill. And therefore, although these replacements, it looks a big number, the harsh reality, that's about 17 a week. America is using far more than that, so it cannot keep pace with the utilization rate. And even allowing for American companies, defense companies, saying they'll quadruple production, there's no chance of them keeping pace with demand. By contrast, if we look at the Shahed drones, which is the centerpiece of the Iranians, 80,000, probably more than that available. But look at the cost.
I thought it was like 50,000. Shit. Western News is saying 80,000. That's crazy.
The production. The cost is about 1% of the cost of the missiles going up against them. And they can produce these things over 100 times faster than America can actually produce their own missiles.
Remember, it's because Iran is producing out of necessity. America is producing for capitalism. That's why there is a major difference in the cost. Okay? If your goal is to make money for your defense contractors, you're not going to have a lean operation. You're not going to have an efficient operation. You don't give a fuck about doing any of those things because you care about burning American money. You care about the unlimited funds that you can get from the Pentagon. Okay? This creates a unique opportunity for smaller countries or smaller economies that have been strangled by American imperialism, to be able to produce results in a war of attrition that are unbelievable. Okay?
The challenge, of course, for these missiles is pretty clear. By use of this graphic, when you have a US intercept system, it isn't just about the missile, it's about detecting, tracking, and then targeting. And once the missile goes in the air, it's very, very effective at taking out the Shahed drone. The challenge, of course, though, is that when it hits it, the debris will often fall and often causes a lot of the damage on the ground. The harsh reality here is that although the United States is a major military superpower, it's using its dominance in the air and in space to deliver dominant effects. Iran is able to combat American quality with quantity. And unless the US finds a way of dealing with these huge number of Shahed drones, whether in storage or on launchers, it's going to be very difficult for President Trump to claim absolute victory.
On day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, we are winning with an overwhelming and unrelenting focus on our objectives.
What are those objectives? It changes on a day-to-day basis, you know? Sometimes it's regime change. Other times it's like demanding that Iran back down. Other times it's flexing about how we blew up like a naval asset off the coast of Sri Lanka. Every day there's a new victory, okay? Operation APAC Fury, Operation Epstein's Fury, fantastic results. We're winning so greatly. Mr. President, they're saying, please, we are winning too hard. We must not win any longer. And I say, no, we're going to keep winning. You know, that sort of thing.
Which are the same as the day I gave my first briefing here on Operation Epic Fury. They're straightforward, and we are executing them with ruthless precision. 1, destroy their missile stockpiles, their missile launchers, and their defense industrial base. Missiles and their ability to make them. 2, destroy their navy. And 3, permanently deny Iran nuclear weapons forever. It's a laser-focused, maximum authority mission delivered with overwhelming and unrelenting precision. No hesitation, no half measures. As President Trump declared yesterday, we're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force. We will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. But we do so on our timeline and at our choosing. For example,
They're trying to falsify marine traffic transponder data to make it look like the Strait of Hormuz is open, possibly to manipulate oil prices. Yeah, I don't know what this navigation interference looks like. Like, I don't know what the purpose of this navigation interference is. I don't know if it's to like distort the Iranian side's capabilities, disrupt their capabilities of like intercepting tankers that may try to cross, or if it's just to like manipulate the energy markets by creating this reality, this fake reality that you know, ships are actually passing through. I don't know what the goal there is, but there's one thing you can't lie about, which is, are tankers fucking crossing or not? Sayed Abbas Arakshi says U.S. officials are posting fake news to manipulate markets. It won't protect them from the inflationary tsunami they've imposed on Americans. Markets are facing the biggest shortfall in history, bigger than Arab oil embargo, Iran's Islamic Revolution, and Kuwait invasion combined. As far as I understand, the ships that have actually passed through the Strait of Hormuz are ships that have Chinese allegiances, like wearing the Chinese flag, or are like are sending the existing supply to China. And even then, it's like very limited. I don't know if I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'll be honest. I have no fucking clue. I don't know if like ships are actually passing or not, but the American side doesn't seem to be saying that the ships are fucking passing. American media official, the ship's owners have said that the U.S. Navy contacted us and told us not to pass through the Strait of Hormuz because there's no coordination capability. The U.S. actions are very much a publicity stunt. There's already a lot of tankers to see from before. OPEC does that to control price. There's over 1K tankers that are just parked outside China waiting to sell when the price is right. It does feel like market manipulation though, because all the numbers that you look at, there is no naval assets that are moving with oil tankers right now. Okay? And I don't think that naval assets that haven't, or oil tankers that haven't gotten prior clearance from the Iranian government are capable of passing through at this moment. And it's funny because like America can't blow up an oil tanker either to make it seem like Iran is doing it, right? Even if it's like a Chinese bound ship, China bound ship, because then it will further collapse the markets. That's the reason why they're not passing through. Reporting from Dropside on why the markets aren't tanking yet. About 35% of the oil that normally transits the Strait of Hormuz is still reaching export markets, Bloomberg's Javier Blas reports. Saudi Arabia's move to ramp up exports in the Red Sea will cause that number to jump to 63% in the next couple of days. This story finally explains why the markets are calm. The Saudis are shipping oil through other channels Iran doesn't control. They have pipelines. I don't know how effective that is, but so Saudi Arabia did build some pipelines to transport the oil to the Red Sea side. But as far as like going through the Strait of Hormuz, I don't think they were. No, and the Red Sea side is not one that the Houthis can reach with the same level of efficiency as they can in their immediate coastline. You can't really pass through reliably through the Red Sea off the coastline of Yemen, but if it's super far up north, then American naval assets could protect the ships, because there are limitations with reaching ships that far up the coastline. Like the Houthis don't have the same capabilities that Iran has in controlling the Strait of Hormuz. If you look at a map, this is one option that they have, right? So they've built some pipelines. It'll be difficult to transport to these pipelines regardless. But Yemen is here, okay? This is the area that they can absolutely fucking dominate. All right? This is the area that they dominate. This is a choke point for Iran. This is a choke point for Yemen, okay? And Yemen has the capabilities of striking ships in this vicinity. Okay? but they don't have the capabilities or have the same reliability when it comes to striking ships here. So they can't effectively control this because it's outside of their reach. So if you put like American naval assets here, they can do a much better job of reliably protecting oil tankers that pick up the barrels of oil that that's transported through the East-West pipeline that can then go up the Suez Canal. Okay, this is how you can avoid the Strait of Hormuz. But obviously, the easiest route here would be, considering that this is where all the fucking oil and gas is, the easiest, and all the refineries are, the easiest route would obviously be to load them on the fucking tankers and take them through the Strait of Hormuz. You understand? I don't know how reliably you can target the pipelines. Like, I don't know how reliably Iran or the Houthis could target the pipelines and to disrupt this transition if they chose to do so. Now, obviously, there are issues with the pipeline as well. It's more expensive. There's more transportation costs here, too, because they're not, there's a lot of oil refiners in this entire area that you still need to deliver to the East-West pipeline. But I guess like Saudi Arabia's own refineries are directly connected, so they can activate this, and that obviously will add some, that's a logistical hurdle. It's going to add some time to reliably start this process. So for a lot of people, because they're min-maxing, this is what capitalists do. They min-max. They're still choosing to wait it out with the hopes that like Trump will de-escalate and pull out, and then the Strait of Hormuz will be open once again, rather than lean into this pipeline. If the Strait was so avoidable, I feel like they would have done it already. It still really doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's just much more cost effective because everything is right there. And if you noticed, given Iranian striking capabilities, this area is also directly within the crosshairs of Iran. Like, all of the oil refineries that happen to be right off the coastline of the Persian Gulf are super, super easy to fucking target if Iran chose to do so. That is why I have said that that's like their nuclear option, right? This is like the maximalist position that they can arrive at, where they just like start melting the fucking refineries. And part of the reason why they don't do that is obviously because that's like the last resort, right? Which is why it's extra dangerous for Israel to start entertaining bombing Iranian oil refineries, because if Israel goes up the escalation ladder and starts actually crippling the Iranian oil infrastructure, then Iran can retaliate by destroying all of the oil infrastructure in the Gulf. That would be devastating, because it would take fucking years to, or at least months after the conflict is over, to like rebuild these facilities, depending on how much damage they've taken. Not only that, but also if they're still in production while they get hit, then the damage is tenfold. This is the reason why a lot of these facilities instantly stopped refining. They stopped refining because obviously if these pipelines that exist within the refineries, if they're still filled with oil or gas, then one minor incident can cause major collapse, right? It's explosive. It's explosive material. And the damage would scale. With the price of a $20,000 Shahed drone, you could cause tens of billions of dollars worth of damage. This is why they stop their production. They don't stop their production because they're like trying to punish the global markets or anything, or they're not even stopping their production necessarily because there aren't enough oil tankers to fill. They're stopping their production because they're worried that they might accidentally receive a drone strike. And it also takes a lot of time to even restart these processes regardless. So it's a totally fucked situation. This is they're they don't have to mine the Strait of Hormuz at all. As you can see, it's a 20-kilometer choke point right here that is, slammed. That is probably peppered with Iranian fixed ballistic missiles, and the Iranian capabilities are obviously much more vast than that. They have go-fast boats. They have a bunch of tech that we haven't even seen yet. As far as like their true naval assets, the real Iranian Navy. So for them, this is, this is open season. Like this is why I kept repeating, if there was an American, if there was any sort of ambition from America to try to ensure the oil tankers and then send naval assets alongside oil tankers, they would give Iran a major W here, because Iran would slam the fuck out of those naval assets, and there would be a horrifying image of an American cruiser, an American, not an aircraft carrier necessarily, but like some kind of American destroyer, for example, being destroyed by Iranian drones, by Iranian go-fast boats that could absolutely blow the shit up. They would overwhelm them with their cheap and accessible drones. They would overwhelm them with their missiles. Horrifying from the perspective of America. Okay, no American general wants to sign off on one of the worst incidents that could happen in American military history, American naval history. Okay. The other option that they have is to take Karg Island, or it's not necessarily an option, but it's like the American nuclear option, up the escalation ladder. That would require boots on the ground. That would mean a fuck ton of American military dying in the process, for the record. And it seems like that's what they're actually petitioning for here. That's what the American Enterprise Institute wanted to do, a suicide mission, a Battlefield 3 map, many of you have probably seen. Okay, this is, Karg Island is where 90% of Iranian oil passes through. Okay, it's this tiny island where 90% of the Iranian oil passes through. America wants to take it over militarily. That would require boots on the ground. You can't do that with fucking special forces. You need like, like any kind of military action in this region requires a logistical supply chain that you simply cannot create. Why can you not create it? Because America has military bases all around this region, right? Let's look at a map again. Let's look at another map. I'm fucking turning into predictive history here, but U.S. Gulf military bases, okay? These are some of the U.S. Gulf military facilities in the Middle East. Every single one of them, with the exception of Turkey, has been hit. Okay? Every single one of them has been overwhelmed by Iranian drones and Iranian ballistic missiles. This is the reason why. This is the reason why Iran has been striking these facilities. Because without these facilities, you cannot create a supply chain. You cannot literally consistently feed your military. You can't feed them with munitions. You can't feed them with weapons. It's not like you can just like paratroop into Karg Island and then seize it, right? Especially a heavily guarded area like Karg Island is going to require a shit ton of support. You need satellites. You need communication systems. You need bases that you can actually send troops through. You can't do that right now if Iran has shown that, they have the capability of cratering fucking American military bases, as they have done so in Bahrain. You can't really do that if Iran is straight up destroying a lot of these facilities for the past 9 days. It's going to be a lot more difficult. It is going to be a lot more difficult to Who remembers the Battlefield 3 map? The Karg Island resembling Iran's seaport for oil exports. Crazy that we might actually see strikes on it a decade in real life. In the real world, and this was a major issue for Russia as well, in the real world, when you have a steady military operation with boots on the ground, you need to constantly refuel those boots. You need to give them, you need to send in munitions. You need to send in additional troops if necessary. You need to send them weapons. You need to send them food. If you can't create a direct line between the front line and all these other bases, which you currently can't because Iran is consistently pummeling these bases, then you can't do a military operation at all. This is the reason why, and medical supply too. This is the reason why Iran has been steadily pummeling the American military bases. That's why it was so fucking stupid for a lot of the American commentators to be like, why is Iran attacking all of their fucking neighbors? I wonder why. This is the reason. This is the reason why they have been effectively neutering American military bases in the region. All right? High-resolution sat images of Iran's attacks on U.S. bases in Kuwait. Oh, my lordy. It wasn't a real question. They were just peddling propaganda like Jon Stewart. Yeah. Why are some of the Iranian people celebrating the war? What do you mean? Like celebrating Iran's response or celebrating the fact that Iran is getting bombed? Karg Island is up the Gulf. So someone said Karg Island is up the Gulf near Kuwait. So an invasion fleet will have to pass through the strait and travel some 500 miles alongside Iran's coast. They're not doing that. That's not happening. There is no shot that that's happening. Okay? That would be insane. What they can try to do is invade through Iraq. But the problem is Iraq has a fairly large Shia population, and Iraq has been consistently also both on the ground and through rockets from Iran blowing up American military bases anyway. So you can't even create a direct line here. You can't do it through Kuwait. You can't do it through Iraq. That was the purpose. That was the reason why Iran was blowing up the American military bases, to render them unusable. The long-term goals of Iran here, obviously, are to cause America to retreat. They've said it openly. The IRGC has said that if Gulf nations want their oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz, we are willing to bargain with them. Our only condition is you tell America and Israeli assets to leave your countries. Right? That's it. So if they say yes, which, you know, for the time being, they're not going to do that, obviously. But if they were to say yes to that, if they were to agree to that, and you know, pull their troops out, and completely leave those bases unguarded, then Iran would allow safe passage for their oil tankers, for their gas tankers. Yeah, I heard from Colonel Wilkerson that Kuwait base was very important for ground deployment of troops in Iran. Yes, the Kuwait base is also very important. It's the one that is like directly across from Karg Island. Kuwait is important and Iraq is very important. But Iraq, I think, has like larger bases than Kuwait, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong about that, though. This is in 2021. These numbers are not correct any longer. I don't think Iran is mining the Strait of Hormuz. The only place that I've heard that from is CBS News, and then CNN is reporting on CBS's original reporting. I don't have any reason to believe CBS News. Okay, I don't have any reason to believe CBS News at all. CBS News is Israel News. And CNN is increasingly becoming Israel news as well. So until I see some real news, until I see something real, something that's tangible, something that I can fucking look at, or reporting from a more reliable outlet, I don't believe in the mining of the Strait of Hormuz, especially considering that you don't have to mine the Strait of Hormuz to shut off the Strait of Hormuz. It's very clear. The last couple of days proves this reality. I am pleased to report that within the last few hours, we have hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine-laying boats and or ships with more to follow. President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, I think that there are... Okay. Maybe they did do that. And we'll see if they actually did that. By the way, they said inactive. So clearly they weren't, I guess, mining. But if they did actually do that, we'll see. However, this also calls into question the previous reporting from the American side. I thought their naval assets were destroyed. That's number one. Turns out it wasn't, as we know. Number two, I think they're faking it. I think they're just straight up saying, oh, they were going to mine it, but we stopped it from happening by blowing up their mining operations just so they can lean into any fucking discernible W they possibly can lean into. We shall find out soon enough if that is the case. Okay? Brian Kilmeade says that he would love for America to take Karg Island.
But we don't want that kind of disruption for our own citizens. We want our families to.
I would love to see him take Karg Island, that oil island. He'd be just like Venezuela. We control their oil. 90% of their oil goes to this little island.
It's not just like Venezuela, you fucking idiot, because in Venezuela, you did not have a serious military defense mounting against your troops. It was clear that there was some kind of side deal that was cut ahead of time, you know, an early retirement for Maduro. Maybe even Maduro falling on his own sword in an effort to save the Venezuelan population. That's probably the most charitable estimation of events. The least charitable one would be Delcy Rodriguez fucking cooked them. Okay? Venezuela looked at the situation and realized they don't have the capabilities of defending the country. Iran is very different than Venezuela. Trying to go after Karg Island is not going to look like a Battlefield 3 mission. Okay? Trying to go after Karg Island is going to be a suicide mission for the reasons that I just mentioned earlier. Because there is no supply line that you can set up effectively. It is so fucking stupid.
The president talked about it in a 1988 interview, and I think he should grab it.
Wouldn't that portend stability?
Says a man who never even heard of Karg Island a few weeks ago, but somehow he thinks he's entitled to its oil. Yeah. Can Iran mine the Strait and also at the same time allow Chinese boats to go through it? No, they can't. That's part of the reason why I don't think they're mining the Strait of Hormuz. That's why I don't think they're mining the Strait of Hormuz, because I think that they want to have leverage. Like they want to be able to bargain with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Okay? It's a good threat to have. And they have the capabilities of doing it, but they're probably not going to do it for the time being, because they want to be able to go up the escalation ladder. U.S. forces have destroyed 10 mine-laying boats in and around the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, either they found and like domed some assets that weren't working, or they just, they're just lying. I'm sorry, but can you explain what you mean by mine? Like sea mines, dude. What the fuck? Like, those big things with like pointy things coming out of it. I don't know what the modern version looks like, but mines, like bombs, they go boom. When you come near it, they're magnetic, they're floating. And when a ship comes near it, it automatically attaches to the ship and explodes. Okay? I suspect that like the modern version of the mines that Iran has are probably a little bit more advanced than that. By the way, this is what they mean when they mean mine laying boats. Yeah, Iran has begun laying a few dozen mines in the Strait of Hormuz. According to two people familiar with the U.S. intelligence reporting on the issue, Iran still retains upwards of 80 to 90% of its small boats and mine layers. One of the sources said, I don't think this is reliable intel anyway. Yeah, they're like, that's different. That one is legit. Okay. This is one of their boats that unironically deploys smaller go-fast boats, okay? Like, and drones as well. I don't know if this is a real video or if it's AI or not. It's probably a real video. That's one of their real fucking boats, though. That's like a real catamaran that has like capabilities of deploying submarines, like or what is it? Unmanned like sea vessels. It's not like called a UAV. I think it's called like no, it's not a USV either. No, it's like there's a different unmanned surface vessel. Yes. It is a USV. You're right. That is one of their legit boats. Or a UUV. Iranian lithium UUV a little while ago wrote about UUVs and how they will become a major threat to any large navy. I want you to read the article. Also pointed out that Iran already has one of these models, the Azdar. It reaches 18 to 25 knots with batteries that can last up to 4 days in patrol mode and cover more than 600 kilometers at low speed. It's not Iran's ships that keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. It's a highly modern asymmetrical arsenal of UUVs, USVs, and UAVs and anti-ship missiles and go-fast boats armed with missiles. I'd say the chance of the U.S. Israel having success in any forceful action to open the strait are very low. How much damage would the mines do? What do you mean? It would just blow up. Dude, we're talking about oil tankers. It doesn't take much. It's over. When it's lit on fire, it's another fucking ecological disaster. Just like it doesn't take much to blow up a fucking refinery, especially if it's operational. It wouldn't take much to blow up one of these oil tankers. Because, you know, the material that they're transporting is explosive. Breaking, Iran for the first time used an unmanned surface vehicle, USV, in the current war. Footage suggests an unmanned boat attacked an oil tanker off the coast of Kuwait. There you go. Sounds similar to the Millennium Challenge. Oh my gosh. Ironically, the Millennium Challenge took place in 2002. So the Iranian capabilities were severely limited at the time. And yet the American admiral that was supposed to be commanding the Iranian naval fleet still utilized very similar tactics. This time around, however, you don't even need to actually put fucking like dudes running the go-fast boats and engaging in like suicide missions. You can literally have drones do it for you. It's much more precise. It's much faster. It's much more stealthy. It is impossible to deal with this shit, okay? Which is precisely the reason why America has not moved any fucking oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. This is it. In memory of the victims of Epstein Island. That's crazy. I don't know if this is real or not. Yeah. 90% of Iran's oil also flows through the Strait of Hormuz and 40% of China's. Yes, exactly. What is this? Mimic future capabilities. That was the point of the war game, but Iran's now lapped even the most cutting edge of the exercise. Yeah. The third photo in this article shows modern sea mines that China uses that loiter around autonomously and target ships. They're basically patrolling and loitering torpedoes. China's torpedoes, new sea mine, make military parade debut, expert highlights, and maritime blockade capabilities. My mom says this has to do with China more than we think. What does that mean? I mean, it's not wrong. Everything that America does, it does with China in mind. China is the major op here in the current iteration of the Cold War. Having said that, is this actually bad for China? No, it's not. It's actually still very good for China. Because American military capabilities diminishing literally in China's backyard in South Korea as a direct consequence of America trying to use all their THAAD batteries in Israel is insane for China. These last 10 days basically showed the rest of the world, and especially China, that America cannot actually engage China in a proxy. If they can't engage Iran, if they cannot engage Iran militarily, they cannot engage China. If China were to go to an island like the Philippines, right? China could just take it. What the fuck's America going to do? They can't directly wage war. All they can do is like turn it into Ukraine. And it's very obvious that they cannot deal with the overwhelming manufacturing capabilities of China at all. They can't hit Chinese mainland because China has nukes, just like they can't hit Russian mainland because Russia has nukes. Any sort of proxy situation for China, any sort of proxy war situation for China favors China tenfold now. America should be very excited at the fact that the Chinese foreign policy has revolved around trade maxing and not bullet maxing, okay?
Today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most... So I'll close with scripture, drawing strength from Psalm 144.
Oh, imagine this ass clown being your fucking commander, dude. God damn. The commander-in-chief is Donald Trump and this fucking drunk rapist. Oh, let me quote some scripture for you guys. Hoorah. Yeah. M Israel high. Fucking dope, dude. Fucking dope.
Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. He is my loving God and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield, in whom I take refuge.
Yeah, it's always funny when they're like, Iran is a radical theocracy that leans heavily into the Quran. Look, they're quoting verses from the Quran, and it's like, then we do this shit. It's fucking fake poser shit. Like, let's be real. For the American side, it's fake poser shit. At least for the Iranians, like, they are actually Shia. You know what I mean? They're not faking it. I wouldn't say that about like even Turkish politicians. Some of them greatly hype up how Muslim they are. I will say Iran is actually like the Iranian leadership is actually fucking not performative. Like they do believe that shit. They ride for it. Okay. Pete Hegseth, on the other hand, is faking it. Iran doesn't want a ceasefire. Speaker from the parliament. Oh. Speaker of the Islamic Republic of Iran's parliament. Certainly, we aren't seeking a ceasefire. We believe the aggressor must be punished and taught a lesson that will deter them from attacking Iran again. The Zionist regime has consistently perpetuated a vicious cycle of war, negotiation, ceasefire, then war again throughout its disgusting history. We will break this cycle. I'm telling you, man, things are not looking too great for America at all. And I've been saying this for the past week or so. And for some weird reason, a lot of Americans are like oblivious to this reality. They want to hear self-soothing statements like, oh, but we have so many missiles. Oh, but we have so many bombs. Oh, we can just like really punish the Iranian electricity grid. We can do a genocide. Yeah, well, you have nukes too, right? You have nukes. You always have the nuclear option, right? That doesn't mean you're actually fucking winning. That's the problem. Breaking, Israel's prime minister's office says that in the coming days, conditions will be created for the Iranian people to grasp your destiny, adding that when the time is right and that time is fast approaching, the torch will be passed to them to seize the moment. Yeah, another desperate Hail Mary. Below is the full statement from Israel's prime minister's office. People of Iran, we are waging a historic war for liberty. Yeah, those clouds, those mushroom clouds that you see in the periphery are clouds of liberty. All of the sons and daughters and your neighbors that we have murdered, we have liberated from their mortal coil. The black clouds that are raining toxic chemicals, destroying your water supply, that is actually a cloud of freedom. Who needs clean water? No one. When we blew up your desalination plant, we did that so we could liberate you from having to drink and have access to clean water. But time is changing. Together with the United States, we are hitting the tyrants of Tehran harder than ever. The Ayatollah is no more, and I know you do not want him replaced with another tyrant. So you must act. We are creating the conditions for you to do so. We have hit countless regime targets. We have taken out thousands of IRGC operatives and hundreds of their missile launchers. We are focused on regime targets and are doing our best not to harm the people of Iran. We are your ally, your best ally. We fully respect your sovereignty, culture, and heritage, which is why we have been blowing up cultural landmarks in Isfahan, one of the most beautiful cities on the planet. That's why we have been blowing them up. You asked for help, and help has arrived. We will continue to hit with growing force the tyrants who have terrorized you for decades. The Ayatollahs and their henchmen are on the run, but those cowards have nowhere to hide, which is precisely the reason why we killed the 87-year-old Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in his own house as he was tending to his garden. You know, in hiding and on the run, of course. In the coming days, we will create the conditions for you to grasp your destiny. Your dreams will become a reality. When the time is right, and that time is fast approaching, we will pass the torch to you. Be ready to seize the moment. Yeah, they got nothing. I can't read this as anything but a fucking desperate Hail Mary, you know?